Hello there and welcome to the latest in our how-to video series. Welcome to the land of the Hair Bear Bunch. Is anybody else struggling with their lockdown hairstyle? Mine is just out of control, but hey ho, that's the way it goes. So anyway, over the last couple of videos, we've focused on building a team, how to make sure that you get the right person for you first time. We've looked at your hiring system, following the golden rules of hiring. We've looked at your probation system, which, as you know now, for me is still very much part of your hiring system. Making sure that you've got a training plan for your person, that you have those 30, 60, and of course your 90-day meetings. And that you get to that yes, no answer. So that's all great if you're hiring and building your team from scratch or renewing your team. What about your existing team? How do you go about assessing your existing team with fresh, objective eyes? You've probably built that team shall we call it the old-fashioned way, by finding the person who has the best CV, hiring them and hoping that they fit. So how are you going to assess those people now? We during this lockdown period that this video has been shot in, we've talked about how we will have learned an awful lot about our team and the people in it over the period of lockdown. Whether they're furloughed or working remotely, we'll have learned a lot. So how are we going to assess them right now? Well, the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself a question that I get every business owner I work with to ask themselves. And that is, if I could, based on what I know now, if I could rehire all of my team tomorrow, how many would get to stay? How many would make the cut? It's a really powerful question. How many of your existing team, if you could rehire them tomorrow, would get to stay? It's very rarely I ask that question and the business owner goes, absolutely everybody. We haven't made a single mistake. Perfect people. There are almost always individuals who were probably never right for the team. People who perhaps interviewed well, and we know that there are an awful lot of people who interview very well. They've sort of learned it as a skill, and also because of the questions that they're asked that focus on experience and expertise, rather than uncovering values. Those questions that we talked about in the hiring video that uncover their values. Most business owners don't ask those questions. They just talk about experience and expertise, which everybody feels very comfortable in answering. So there will be some people in your team who've interviewed very well. There'll be others who interviewed very well and then haven't had their probation managed well. So they've shown signs that they weren't right during their probation period, but they haven't been picked up on. Maybe because there wasn't a proper training plan, maybe because they haven't been tested during their probation period. So Or maybe because there was no end to their probation period. There was no 90-day meeting that got to a yes or no answer. And so they just drifted into full-time employment. There'll be others who presented very well at interview and probation, but then they just haven't had the training that they needed to keep them developing, keep them enthused and growing. Or more likely, they haven't had the feedback that they needed about their performance, about the way they were behaving, that's allowed them to become a valuable member of the team. And quite often we've made assumptions about somebody not being right, when actually, given the right feedback, they turn into a different person. I've seen that so many times in the teams that I've either taken over or managed myself, that you've almost, oh my God, they're driving me mad. And then you just ask yourself the question, well, have I told them about their behavior? Have I told them what it is about what they're doing that is not meeting my standard, that is not working in the way that our team works. So, for various reasons, there are people in our teams who are not right. So we ask the who would get to stay question, just to identify that person or those people who were just not right. And later on in the how-to series, we'll talk about how you deal with those people, because you are the person who's going to have to deal with them further down the line, and ideally sooner rather than later. Once you've asked yourself that question, you've got your answer, then I want you to plot your team on what's called a potential versus performance matrix. And I've attached it in the comments below, so you can download it and work through it as I'm talking. And this matrix gets you to assess the current performance of each individual in your team, together with their potential to improve, develop and grow, that sort of thing. So, for example, you've got somebody called Bill, and he's a good guy. You can rely on him to turn up on time, to do his work to the right standard, and then go home. He doesn't make any waves, but he doesn't really contribute beyond the role that he's been hired to do. He's very happy doing what he's doing, and he's a good guy. And you would, in terms of the matrix, you would stick Bill in the steady stayer box. And steady stayers are important in a business, definitely important in a bigger business. You want people who are very happy doing their job really well, just working along as you need them to. You don't want everybody that's constantly wanting to progress. And in a smaller team, your steady stayers may actually be really good for maybe your first few years in business, but then actually they become a bit limited as you grow, as your ambition grows, as you're driving the business forward. They then become the people that you think, well, they were really good then, but are they right for us going forward? So steady stayers are great. They're good employees, and you just want to monitor whether they are staying in the steady stayer box or whether they need to move further down and left on your matrix. So then you've got Mina, and she is also reliable, does a good job, does what you need her to, doesn't rock the boat. But unlike Bill, she has shown signs that she does want to progress. She does want to learn more. She's got a thirst for knowledge, in fact. She's constantly asking if there's more she can do, if there's something else that she can learn. She wants to grow her knowledge. So she's got more potential to perform than somebody like Bill. So you want to be thinking, could you give her an additional role within the business? Could you give her more responsibility? If you're in a bigger business, could you move her to a different team perhaps to learn new skills? And Mina would be classed as a good performer, and that's the box you would put her in on your matrix. And then you've got somebody like Sue, and Sue has only been around for a few months. She's passed her probation, but you've seen signs that she's going to be a bit of a star. You like what you've seen. She's making an effort. She wants to learn more. She's got a thirst for knowledge, possibly. She asks to take on more responsibility. So you might want to think about, could you give her more responsibility? Could you move her into a new part of the business that she could learn more? Is there in a bigger business, is there another team that she could move into where she could learn more? So Sue has got lots of potential, and she's going to sit in the potential to perform box. So you get the idea. So what I want you to do is download, if you haven't already, download the performance potential matrix via the link, and map your team, however small. Even if you've just got one person, where would that one person sit? And are you happy that you're going to build the rest of your team around them. If you've just got freelancers, map your freelancers onto this matrix as well, because we've talked about this before, that freelancers, really, you want to treat them as if they are employees. You still want to ensure that they share your values. You still want them to work to your standards. So plot your freelancers on there and make sure that they are right for you and your team. And once you've got a really clear picture of the whole team, pull together a people plan that will plot out what development each individual needs going forward, what they need from you to become a valuable team member, what feedback they need, perhaps, what performance management, what additional training, or going back to the training you've already given to make sure that they actually got it. Always check in with yourself first. Have I done enough to help this person to be a valuable team member? If the answer is yes, then that's a different story. So, are there gaps in the team that you need to fill? Can those gaps be filled by training somebody in the existing team, or do you need to hire? If you need to hire, how soon will you need to hire? How soon will you need to fill that gap in your team's skill? And what's your plan for that? With all of these things, this is a people plan. So with all of these things, you want to have, this is what I'm going to do, this is when it's going to be done by, and if you're able to delegate some of the tasks, this is who is going to do this particular piece of the people plan, who's going to do this task. So sit down somewhere. This is very easy at the moment in lockdown. Sit down somewhere away from distractions. Actually, not if you've got children. Good point. Sit down somewhere away from distractions and really think this through carefully. Map out what you're going to do by when. And remember, at this stage, we're only talking about what you need to do. We're not yet talking about how you need to do it. We'll get onto that in a later video. But at the end of the day, building a team who share your values and perform to your high standards is your number one priority as a leader. It's the most important thing that you do. Yes, it's challenging and it can be tough. But whether you're building a team from scratch or building your existing team, please don't settle for someone who isn't right. Don't settle for someone who is actually unsettling the rest of your team, or who will unsettle new people coming in. Don't settle, because you get who you settle for. So take that away, go and look at go and plot your potential performance matrix, pull together your people plan, and in the next how-to video we'll talk about how to understand your team's dynamics and to get the best from them in terms of their dynamics. And don't forget, this is all part of a bigger puzzle that we're pulling together. That's got 9 steps to it, really, 7 systems and 9 steps. So we're really just taking this one step at a time to build up the systems within your business, to move you from possible chaos to absolute consistency and the freedom of choice that's going to give you. So have fun with this, enjoy it, and any comments, questions, do get in touch with me. You know where I am by now, and I'll see you in the next video.